I would say my marketing understanding is really bolstered the understanding and the fulfillment of the client journey and us achieving what attorneys really hope to have in a law firm.
Welcome to Spill the Ink, a podcast by Reputation Inc., where we feature experts in growth and brand visibility for law firms and architecture, engineering, and construction firms. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hi, and thanks for being here for another episode of Spill the Ink. I'm Michelle Calcote King. I'm your host, and I'm also the principal and president of Reputation Inc. We are a public relations and content marketing agency for B2B professional services firms, including law firms. To learn more, go to rep-inc, that's inc with a K.com. Law firms are usually run by attorneys, but every now and then, and starting more and more, you have leaders who don't have that JD behind their name. So today, we're talking to a CEO of a law firm with a very unique background. He is a ski instructor turned digital marketer turned law firm CEO. So we're talking to Jonathan Delk. He's the CEO of JVAM Law. It's a Colorado-based law firm that offers a wide range of legal services to businesses and individuals. So welcome to the show, Jonathan.
Thanks for having me, Michelle.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about this. So tell me a little bit about your career path and how you ended up in this role as CEO of this firm.
Yeah, so it's probably as non-traditional as you could possibly get. I started, shortly after undergraduate in Boulder, just diving straight into the ski industry as a ski and snowboard instructor and working in management at ski areas. And then started living in the endless winter life between Queenstown, New Zealand and Aspen, Colorado, teaching skiing and snowboarding full time and working with PSIA-ASI, which is the instructor training and certification body. From there, my then girlfriend, now wife, and I got engaged and decided to settle down in the Roaring Fork Valley, which is the area that surrounds Aspen, Colorado. Um, and when we did that, it was time to make a career shift because no longer could I be year round full time in the winter.
Yeah.
I got involved in mountain biking and coaching mountain biking. I'd always had a passion for cycling and hadn't done it for many years because of the endless winters. But when I started coaching cycling, I got more involved with other organizations like the National Interscholastic Cycling Association, NICA, Colorado High School Cycling League, and eventually got to the point where I launched my own organization called Roaring Fork Cycling, a nonprofit organization that brought after school opportunities to kids, middle school kids around Aspen and the greater area. Um, and that's the moment that uh, business administration entered my life.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I was running an organization with hundreds and hundreds of participants, 30 employees, tons of logistics and operations, tons of risk and liability, and I needed a board of directors, and I needed to figure out how to run a business. And that was the moment also that I was decided that it was probably time to get some education.
Yeah.
So I applied and got enrolled into the Colorado State University Business School to get my MBA and pursued that. And then once I graduated with that MBA, I got linked up with a law firm in Glenwood Springs and started doing business operations. And then that's where the big pivot happened, and we launched JVAM out of that firm.
Oh, okay.
And that's when I took on this more senior executive role in administration.
What are some of the benefits about not being a lawyer in this role? Because it is rare to not be, the traditional structure is to have a managing partner. Tell me, what do you see as the pros for having somebody that is not practicing law running the firm?
Overall, the ethos of JVAM is specialization. And so we try not to have everybody doing everything all the time. And w- the number one issue is with with a small firm like a solo operator, you don't need somebody like with an executive mindset who takes responsibility. Um, and that you just make the decisions. You're small enough, you're nimble enough. But you get to a certain size where um, you have to build consensus and bring all the shareholders and partners along in making decisions, and that is cumbersome. And if you don't have very good board governance, you can get burdened down with what kind of coffee maker to buy the office and spend an hour having a conversation about, should we get the $100 one or the $200 one, when the opportunity cost around the room was $3,000 on that conversation.
Right.
And that is the primary reason to have somebody who is fiscally minded and operationally minded, making the small incremental decisions on a day-to-day basis, with guidelines or boundaries of strategy and budget. And so we are able to execute quickly and make good proactive decisions and reactive decisions on a day-to-day basis, because it's not burdened with the stealing the attention of several partners and trying to get their buy-in or help them come along in the decision making process. The reason I would say having a CEO, and especially a non-attorney CEO, wouldn't have to necessarily be a non-attorney, but it'd have to be a non-practicing
Right.
attorney,
Yeah.
uh, is you have to be so specialized that you're not distracted from your your core competency or your contribution to the company, and you're constantly having to balance that with billables and clients, right? Because
Yeah.
the billing and the client will always come first, and that will cause other things to suffer. So as long as there's people in the organization that are prioritizing um, operations over revenue generating activity, those operations can fulfill their opportunity to be as great as they can be. Um, that's that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
By allowing people to focus on their contribution and not be distracted or dilute their contribution, we're allowing different areas of the firm to excel, including revenue operation.
Right. According to, as you said a moment ago, a established strategy, benchmarks. It's not like you're just kind of running around making decisions because you want to. You've got a very clear strategy that I'm guessing the partnership has bought into. They understand.
Yeah, so we have cadence and meetings, and we have key objectives and goals for quarters and annuals. But we also do strategic planning on an annual basis with the partner shareholders. We also do large format company wide retreat where we share some of that strategic planning and some of that vision, and um, create shared learning opportunities across the entire firm.
Yeah.
But yeah, from day one, it was a little bit like, okay, John, go, right?
Wow.
And and it was get us going and get us started, and then kind of 6 to 12 months in, it was okay. Like I've we're running now. Now what? Now where do we go next? And that's when we started making strategic decisions on personnel and growth and markets.
How did you get that? Okay, John, go buy-in. Where did that come from the partners? That kind of trust and excitement to have somebody to have that non-traditional structure.
Was day one, and so as I said, I the original seven of us that started JVAM worked at another firm. Um, Three of the partners, Casey Martin, Ben Johnston, and Lucas Van Arsdale, decided they were going to start another firm. And I had a conversation with them and said, "Do you need help?" And they said yes. And that was when I made the decision to resign from my position at the other firm and get started. And that is a wild story because I built a law firm from the ground up in 2 weeks.
Wow.
And that was everything. And it was so important that day one, when everybody walked in, they were able to do their work and we were able to make sure that everybody was able to be benefited and paid. And
Yeah.
it was a tall order.
I bet. Yeah. 2 weeks kind of setting up all the operational structure and yeah, I can imagine that that was wild. Um what are some of the challenges that you find in the role? And I know that is a huge question, but specific to the fact that you aren't an attorney.
People being confused and thinking I am an attorney. It's always an awkward conversation where they're like, "Oh, you're an attorney," and it's like, "Actually, I'm not."
Yeah.
And then they're like, "Wait, what?" And they're so confused by it, because
Yeah. It's different. Yeah.
it's not a normal scenario, and you could probably count up well under 100 how many non-attorney chief executive officers there are in the country, right? And so for law firms. And so that's the first one. I think the second one, I don't experience this, but I could imagine others would, is a constant questioning of decision making and acumen, because you don't have that JD, you're not a barred attorney, and their attorneys are often the person that is sought out for guidance in complex situations and compliance and those types of things. And I could see that being difficult. It can be difficult for me at times because of some of the touchy nature of subjects that may come up. But in general, I'm able to tap partners within the firm for conversations and build consensus, and usually get to the right decision pretty quickly with dialogue and research. And so I don't really see a lot of that hurdle too much, but I would imagine it's a little bit more um, cumbersome here than it would be in other companies for a chief executive officer. Uh, so yeah, those are some hurdles. You know, he My job is, as much as it is operationally, it's so much more focused on culture, and I think that's where a lot of the latitude comes from, because we prioritize culture so heavily and
Yeah.
making sure that this is a world-class place to work.
Yeah. I'd love to hear more about that. What are some ways? Because, especially in the legal industry, that is a real distinctive move to focus on culture. And tell me a little bit more about what you're doing there. What are some ways that you're making it a really great place to work?
Yeah, so JVAM, from day one, we wanted to be an employer of choice, and we wanted to do things that made working here the most ideal for any attorney in the state, if not the country. Um, we're starting to have applicants from New York and Philadelphia to come work in some of our small town offices, and it's pretty wild because we pay competitively and we take care of our team. Um, so I would say, some of the primary things would circle around the focus on, you know, not so much work life balance, but like making sure that everyone has a balanced life that feeds into their goals. Um, we have very flexible billing requirements for our attorneys. So we're on an annual. There's an annual commitment. Everyone has unlimited PTO on the attorney level, but they can set to and remain full time. They can set annual commitment as low as 1,080 hours a year.
Wow.
It's
Yeah.
90 hours a month. That's
Yeah.
pretty low
That
for
is
an
low.
attorney. We do have thresholds for bonus eligibility, but it's still a great salary, and the benefits are amazingly complementary to that lifestyle. We pay 100% medical, dental, vision up to
Wow.
full family for
Wow.
premiums. We fund HSA up to the burden of the deductible,
Wow.
whether that's for a single or full family. And we have, again, that generous time off policy. We really focus on creating community. We have an annual ski day where we all go skiing together. We have an annual company raft trip. We have a corporate retreat where we all go somewhere offsite for 2 days and do some shared learning experiences. We throw an epic Christmas party every year, um, and we really focus on building relationships internally above and beyond just the day-to-day work collaboration. Uh, Everyone in the company is eligible for that same benefit package,
Wow.
whether you're an administrative assistant or the chief executive officer. Everyone has access to the same benefit suite.
Yeah.
Um, and I think by doing these things, we've created a deep relationship with the firm that goes above and beyond the transactional nature of this is just a job.
Yeah.
People very much feel supported and taken care of here, and feel a sense of responsibility to contribute in the ways they best can.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I love the flexibility in, for some people, that lower billable requirement is right for them, and giving them that flexibility to choose that lifestyle. I think that's I can imagine that is a huge benefit. Um, the other thing I wanted to ask was your background in marketing and how that has helped your in this role.
Legal marketing is a tricky beast. I would say generally marketing efforts can only account for roughly 10 to 20% of new clients and matters in a firm. So the effort in legal marketing has more to do with brand reinforcement and reputation reinforcement. I would put presence and public relations and community outreach chief among the priorities
Yeah.
compared to what you would look at in a traditional like software as a service or other product marketing where you would focus on increasing knowledge and awareness and conversion, right?
Right.
The funnel, if you will, looks different, and being able to speak um, clearly and articulately about marketing and to be able to quickly distill that, simplified the process of building the pipeline of new clients, new matters. I've worked with our director of practice management on developing the client journey and the matter lifecycle as a timeline with triggers and automations so that we can make sure that the process of initial contact to um, intake and conflict checking and consultation and engagement and matter setup and moving forward with matters is as seamless as possible, but still remains high touch. And so this awareness, I would say, has created a bit of the special sauce of JVAM, if you will, where we focus on efficiency coupled with um, in-person interactions and a sense or a feeling of the client that wow, this person has really helped me, carry this along. Um, and using client relationship management software and using all those tools that typical in other industries do, it's helped accelerate us. The legal industry is a bit slow to the uptake on
Absolutely. Yeah.
technology and systems like this, and a lot of people like to just build an Excel sheet, keep track of their clients there,
Or it's
or
just all
write a
sitting
process.
in Outlook. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Whereas like today, like you can design this into workflows. There's practice management software that almost does it all for you. So there's no reason to reinvent the wheel. It's just a matter of bringing people along into understanding their role in the process and how to best fulfill that process. And so um, I would say my marketing understanding has really bolstered um, the understanding and the fulfillment of the client journey, and us achieving what attorneys really hope to have in a law firm, which is you know prompt responsive communication and helping move clients from initial contact to engagement as quickly as possible, but also while managing risk.
yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. I love the fact that you view marketing as client experience. So a lot of people decouple the two. So a lot of people think, well, marketing's just getting the client in the door, and they forget that it's the whole life cycle of the relationship, and it's truly that full client experience.
Over 40% of our new matters are from existing
Right.
clients or referred clients. And
Referred.
so,
Yeah.
one, I know that information. And to have that information on hand means that we're doing a lot of data entry and we're doing a lot of analysis. So there's marketing that builds into that, and you have to know that information of your source, right? Your lead source. Um, Two, if that's the characteristic of the pipeline of your new clients that are coming in, they are either direct referrals from, or they're either existing clients or direct referrals from other relationships within the community. How people experience you has a huge impact on whether or not somebody else will come and work with you again.
Yeah.
Um, and so, if you emphasize the relationship and you look at the relationship as a source of future opportunities of work, then 100% it's marketing. Everything we do is marketing. It's
Yeah.
and everyone in the firm has a responsibility to marketing. There's an expectation in our firm amongst our assistants when someone initially contacts the firm. If they fill out a form online, we're supposed to call them within the first 2 hours of the next business day. If someone gets through to voicemail during business hours, they're meant to be called back as quickly as possible. Like, that is the next priority task. We have 4 people on the phones all day, every day, so that nobody gets kicked through to voicemail. And so every
Yeah.
time someone calls, they get to talk to a real person, and that real
Right.
person can help them solve their problem. And that has been a massive uptick in client experience. There's very few law firms that you can call and talk to a real person on the phone and have them help you immediately.
Yeah.
So our responsiveness to the community has helped bolster that reputation. And it goes beyond your job, right? We coach the entire team, not just attorneys, that who you are in the community, how you behave in the community. We want you to wear your role with our firm as a badge of honor. We want you to be proud that you work here, and we want you to share that with everyone in the community. We also want us to be proud that you are out there doing that. And so we do a lot of coaching on professionalism and this responsibility to uphold the brand integrity on a more global scale. And it's had huge positive impacts. And uh, you know, people walk around with their branded JVAM stuff, and they're proud. But like, we do, little things that just help remind people to where they work, and that they're out there representing us, whether they're on the clock or not.
Yeah, that they're brand ambassadors.
Exactly.
They are the people that are living out your brand. Yeah, very very smart. So, what do you see? I want to talk a little bit more broadly before we into the interview about what are some of the sort of bigger trends that you're now looking at that are going to impact the way you run the firm. Are there any big changes coming down the pike that are something that you're looking at?
We're kind of at the precipice of a major shift in the way legal work is accomplished, and it's never going to take away the actual knowledge work or the critical thinking or the attention to detail or the administrative hurdles. Like, all those things are going to exist, and um, all those things take time, and that time has to be built for. So I'm not saying it's not going to be like an absolute industry disruption, but much like the typewriter disrupted handwritten documents, and much like the computer disrupted the typewriter, we're in a world now where artificial intelligence and automation are beginning to disrupt drafting, and beginning to disrupt research, and beginning to disrupt formatting. And those elements, it's going to make things smoother. It's going to make things faster. It's going to push quality up, and I think it's going to require everyone to level up a bit. It's going to come with its own hurdles and complicators, but I think what's coming down the pike is, I think, more prompt distillation of information and conclusions without as much burden on manual research. And
Yeah,
yeah, it's getting everything is always getting more efficient, and so
yeah,
how you deal with that efficiency and how that efficiency gets passed on to the consumer is going to be the main thing that I think requires some thought. That's macro though, and I mean, we're talking 5 years, I think, where we're
yeah.
going to actually start. I mean, we're seeing it now, but in 5 years, I think we're going to see it more globally and more universally around among firms. I think other things that are coming down the pike is this dispersed workforce. I think right now we're seeing this really weird shift in corporate real estate and offices. There's a swing to get back in the office, but there's
Yeah.
still massive amounts of offices that are sitting empty. Some companies have embraced remote work, some companies haven't. Yeah, I think it really just depends on what your P&L looks like and can you afford offices. And uh, for those who can work remotely and you can eliminate that office expense from your P&L, you're creating a greater opportunity for profitability, especially in that small to mid-sized firm space. Um, Large firm space, I'm sure it's the same, but again, like that, the, there's a scaling opportunity there where having an office is essential and having it a little bit bigger isn't necessarily that much more expensive. And so I can see why big law firms are in that swing to come back to the office to have in-person collaboration, those types of things. But for the small to mid-sized firm, I think like I definitely think that that's going to be a dividing line in the experience of at least partners and their profitability.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see how this shakes out over the next 5 years because it's a huge expense to have offices. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
and you know in the large markets they're empty, and I can go buy a skyscraper in St. Louis for the same price of my offices in Basalt,
Yeah,
and my
absolutely.
offices in Basalt are definitely not a skyscraper.
Yeah. Well, I think it also impacts who you're able to hire too. There's, you're able to pick up certain people that's a very big benefit to them to have that flexibility in their and where they work and how they work. So yeah, there's other implications to that. So
Yeah, we foster that flexibility regardless, right? So
yeah,
all of our attorneys have an office, all of our employees have a workstation, right? No matter what. We have flex desks in all of our offices, so people travel between the offices to hotel or work other locations. We do a lot of office sharing, meaning attorneys or other people say, "Hey, I'm going to be in Basalt. Do you want to work in Glenwood today?"
yeah,
And we can swap offices, and you can work at my desk, and I'll work at yours, that kind of thing.
yeah,
So we keep that flexibility. But I mean, I like to take my family to Mexico. I go to a small fishing village for a week, usually for spring break, and I work
yeah,
that whole week. It's not hard.
yeah.
Maybe I'm not working full days, but
Right.
I'm still paying attention to the business, taking calls, and making decisions and making things happen for a few hours every day. And there's no reason people can't work and travel at the same time or blend that experience.
Yeah.
And we foster that. We're absolutely okay with that.
Love that. Well, I'd like to ask as a final leaving thought, if there's one thought you'd want to leave our listeners with around our conversation, I'd like to kind of let you do that.
I think when it comes to branding, marketing, and working with law firms, there's a lot of templates, right? And so, like, here, let me give you this template for how to have a website. Let me give you this template for how to have a brand, and maybe you need to have the scales of justice in there or a chessboard or something, and it's all so cookie cutter and familiar and those are the types of things that make attorneys quite comfortable.
Uh-huh.
Is it form? Is it template? Is it normal? And it, my best recommendation is, you don't have to break the mold, but bring in some color, bring in some differentiation, buck the trend a little bit, and you will stand out against the group, and you will have an opportunity to set yourself apart a little bit, while still maintaining that professional reputation, image, and approachability. And so I
I
think
love
there's
that.
I think there's a huge opportunity for growth in legal marketing and to bring in some creative aspects that enforce the priorities rather than detract from them, which most attorneys, that's their chief fear is, I don't want to come off the wrong way. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
think
love
creatively.
that. Yeah, I know we are just about to go, but I talk a lot about the fact that the law is a risk aversion field Whereas I find marketing is a risk-taking field. It's a see if this works. Let's try this. Let's see how people react. I mean, based in research, things like that. But you have to be a little bit of a risk taker to be a great marketer. So it is a real often the two kind of hit, head on. And you're right. There's real opportunity to for firms to differentiate if they can be a bit more creative and stop looking to see what every other firm is doing and mimicking them. So
Let me parlay on
yeah,
one last note.
yeah,
There's this phrase in the legal field of minders, finders, and grinders, right? And I find that minders and grinders like to use their contribution or their kind of default as a reason not to have soft skills and good interpersonal skills. And if over 40% of our new matters are from referrals from existing clients or new are either existing clients or referrals from those existing clients, how important is our interpersonal skills to bringing in that next client? And if
absolutely.
the relationship is left to the minder or the grinder, and they don't necessarily have those interpersonal skills to keep the client happy and engaged, then you're going to lose that client.
Yeah,
I can't tell you how many times I get a phone call that, I took an intake just the other day because that's the kind of guy I am. I will, when some of my team has to take a time off, I will put myself on the phones and I'll run intakes. Keeps
yeah,
me close to the front line, helps me understand the processes and procedures, helps me get better coaching on how this should work on a day to day basis.
yeah,
Plus, everyone feels super supported that their boss is willing to do their job while they're gone rather than create a pile of work for them when they take time off. All those things. But I get a phone call and it said, I was working with this attorney. He retired. He referred me to this other guy. This other guy never returns my calls, never returns my emails. I've never Googled for an attorney before, but I'm kind of worried about this. I don't know how this works. I've always just been introduced to other people. And I said, hey, don't worry about it. Let's talk through it. Gave him the whole spiel. I told him how we're going to be responsive to him. I set an expectation that I knew that we could exceed. We immediately exceeded his expectation, got him scheduled for a consultation. The person that he's working with is literally across the street from the commercial space that he needed some legal representation on. And he felt immediately taken care of and cared for. And he said, I've had more interaction with your firm in 2 days than I did with my prior attorney from representing me for the last 6 months.
love
It's like,
that.
that's
Wow.
how it should.
Yeah,
And so that emphasis, right? If your intake people have great interpersonal skills and soft skills, if
yeah,
all your attorneys have great interpersonal skills and soft skills, that little bit of following through, meeting and exceeding expectations, and fulfilling needs and solving problems will only reinforce the brand. It all comes back to client experience.
yeah. Oh, great. Really great points. Well, thank you so much. So we have been talking to Jonathan Delk of JVAM Law. So if anyone wanted to get in touch with you and talk more, what's the best way for them to do so?
Uh, Anyone is welcome to reach out through a contact form on the website, jvamlaw.com, or you can send me an email, jon@jvamlaw.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Spill the Ink, a podcast by Reputation Inc. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.